This 1978 Toyota Land Cruiser wears its original paint and body. It has its original powertrain and has 52,800 miles at the time of this recording in 2021 when it was towed to my house, so that way we can get it running and my in-laws can sell it. The seats were reupholstered sometime in the late 90s using a factory material and stitch pattern, and the rest of the interior is untouched factory original. At the time, I knew nothing about the FJ40 Land Cruisers, but that would soon change as we tear this down and bring it back to its former glory on the road. So the head had to come off in order to free up the short block, and we found a couple of burnt intake valves. We decided to get new ones and then hand lap all of the valves so they seated nicely on the valve seats in the head. And if you're wondering why I'm doing a voiceover, that's because a lot of this stuff was done well before I had my YouTube channel. So I don't have a lot of recorded footage, and we're just gonna go over some photos until we get into that period where I started recording all of my work. So we got new valve stem seals in while all of the valves were out. We decided to take apart the carburetor and fully rebuild it because we knew it was going to need it no matter what. And then we started attacking the short block and finally getting it to turn over all the way, which you can see here.
That's it.
With the short block freed up, it was finally time to get the cylinder head reinstalled. We put a new head gasket on and did a cold valve lash adjustment. And then we decided to replace the fuel pump altogether instead of rebuilding it, and it fired right up. Wow!
Unbelievable.
Nice!
How the lows up here?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We did it.
It's actually...
How'd it feel?
Just like it did 30 years ago. Oh my God.
So we were just supposed to get this running so that they can sell it for a little bit more money, but this was about the time when we decided we just couldn't let it go, and we made the decision to purchase it. What's up, YouTube? Sorry for the delay on the FJ40. I know it's been a few months. Last time I fixed it, I was waiting on funds for parts. Then I got the funds for the parts, ordered them up, and they've just been sitting, hanging around in order for me to get time to put them on. So now is the time to get this pile of parts on the Land Cruiser. Taking the wheels off, we can get a little bit of a closer look here before I tear it apart. We've got brand new rotors ready to go on. I've got rebuild kits for the calipers and new brake pads. We got brand new worn hubs that'll be installed, new wheel bearings, and most importantly, and why I'm doing all this to begin with, is removing the knuckle and getting that Burfield joint out, pulling the whole axle out, cleaning it all up, repacking it with grease, changing all the seals, and putting it back together. And then I'll jump onto some of the tie rod ends and all the other steering components. But that's gonna be the beginning of this getting it back on the road project. After that, we'll focus on the rear axle, essentially doing the same thing, rebuilding any wearable items, and then take the drive shafts off and change the seals on the transmission and transfer case, and brake master, clutch master, rear wheel cylinders, and then I'll feel more confident in driving it. Anyways, I'm gonna crack that front diff drain open and probably cringe when we see some muck come out of it. So I will flip the camera around, get situated, and we'll see what happens when we open it up. So we're always going to open the fill plug first to make sure we can fill it up once it's cracked open. No different on this one. Okay, that was nice and easy. All right, let's see what's in here. That's not too bad. I mean, it's got a little gold in it. Not as bad as I was imagining that it would be, for sure. So we'll let that drain and then jump onto the wheel hubs and go from there. It's gonna be little by little. All right, first things first is getting this worn hub off. Okay, so one of them was tight, the rest of them were loose. And before I took it off, I spun everything and made sure it functioned. So I'm not replacing them because they don't work, but I just got new ones. So everything looks nice and fresh when it's all done. Okay. Yep, I wasn't crazy. There was a bunch of rust on this one. All of them had some, but this one was the worst offender. And it was stuck. So now, we'll take it off. And you get to see an old hub versus a new one, both made by Warn. This one was recently discontinued, so if you can still get your hands on them, you should. I'll put the link in the description below. There's nothing wrong with these. I'm going to save them. They are the original ones to this, so they will not be getting tossed, that's for sure. All right, I took the gasket off right here, and I just wanted to show you that what I was doing was using this very, very sharp wood chisel. Picked it up at Home Depot, and when I'm hitting it down and trying to wedge it in, but smooth, and I'm not cranking on it or anything, because when you do that, you will mess up this mating surface. So if you look closely, I have not marred or chipped or distorted the surface in any way. When I was using this guy, I was kind of trying to break the seal a little bit, but it's not as fine as of a tip, and this would for sure mess up this surface. So I just went back and I picked up this guy just to be safe. It's what I use also on the axle nut covers for a Tacoma, and it's razor sharp to get started. And looking a little closer, you can see that was some rust buildup that was totally holding that hub in. So I'm going to have to clean all that stuff off so we don't have that problem in the future. quick recap on what we've done so far. Basically, we've got the caliper off, pulled off the hub first, took the caliper off, undid the nuts that were holding on the wheel bearing assembly, slid the whole assembly out, and this is where we've ended. As you can see inside, look at the grease. It is just done. It's all packed to one side. It's not really lubricating anything, and you can see right here it's a little contaminated as well. Part of the knuckle rebuild is changing all of this. And another thing to think about, which is kind of odd, if you ever wanted to change the rotors, you have to do everything I just did. And the reason being is these bolts, the heads for them are on the inside facing right here. So you cannot do a disc rotor swap without taking off this complete assembly. Just out of curiosity, I got a new rotor, so this is brand new from Toyota, and just wanted to make sure that it lined up, matched, and it was the same, which it is. But if you look right here, it says minimum thickness 19 millimeters. That means that this cannot be thinner than 19 millimeters if you want to get it resurfaced by someone. But since we're not resurfacing and we're replacing, we don't have to worry about that. But out of curiosity, I want to see where we're at here on this ancient rotor. So we will zero this out and we'll spec it. So we're at 20 millimeters. Surprisingly enough, this can be resurfaced, albeit it would be one more time, but there's a point of concern when a rotor gets too thin. It'll warp easier and it can crack. So this is basically at the end of its life, unless you want to squeeze out one more resurface, but doing all this work is not worth it to me for the chance of warping. So that's why I bought all these parts, just to do it in one shot and be done with it. So as we dig further into this, a lot of it will make sense to you if you haven't seen it before. This is what we're after. We're going to pull this axle shaft completely out of the axle housing, and this steering knuckle right here is what turns when you turn your wheels. That has a bunch of grease in the axle housing and a bunch of seals that wipe this large ball on the end of the knuckle, which you'll also see when I clean it up. So just something to keep an eye out while I do this, and it'll all start making a little bit more sense. All right, well, this is cleaned up as best as it's going to get today. Obviously, we have a lot more deep and thorough cleaning to do, but we're going to jump on over, handle the other side, and call it a day. Alright guys, believe it or not, it's been about a week since I fully took off those hubs and put them in the garage. I cleaned everything, got it all prepped, and I just about have this side ready to go back together. So this is the driver's side knuckle. I've already changed the races on top and bottom, put a new axle seal, Got a new felt, rubber, and reused the original metal disc. That's gonna bolt up to the back side of this hub right here. And all I have to do right now is pack the bearings, get it installed, torque the top and bottom, and use a, I guess like one of those luggage weight deals, and pull on the edge of this and make sure we're at the correct resistance. Otherwise, I need to take it all apart and change the shims that are on top and bottom. But we're gonna start by putting it all back together with the factory shims, and hopefully it works the first time so I don't have to do it again. That wasn't too bad. I got the upper and lower trunnion bearings packed, seated, upper and lower bolts torqued to spec. Now we're going to throw a zip tie in here and measure the resistance. We want 3 to 6 kilos. And let's hope we get it right the first time, because I don't want to take it apart and do it again. So we're going to pull and stay parallel and see what we got. I got about 3.2, 3.5 evenly all the way around. I think that's great. All right, well now I can get the backing screwed on using these pieces, and then we could jump to the other side, get the knuckle assembled, and we'll call that done for today. I still need to take off the third member, clean all that up, inspect it, and put it back on before I pack this full of grease and put an axle in. So I'm just putting this on for now. One, I didn't want to get the parts lost in the garage anywhere, and two, I need to remember how it goes back together. So the sooner I get all these pieces back on, the better. I'm happy with this at this time, and we'll just keep moving forward, get it put back on little by little. I've got tie rods coming, brake lines, clutch master, brake master, a bunch of seals for the powertrain, and we're going to be rebuilding the rear wheel bearings just like we're doing the front. So there's a bunch more to come on this build. Closer and see what I'm up to. So right here you can see that I cleaned and rust proofed and coated the axle right here. So that's essentially what I'm going to be doing all the way across, and I'll be doing that to the third member as well. I'm not going to take off the leaf packs and the U-bolts and do under that until we get a lift kit with leaf packs, and then I'll just touch up those areas on each side after. But we'll get in the middle for now. And I was really curious to see what it looked like inside here. I didn't want to find any chunks or metal shavings. I know it's a very low mile vehicle, but I didn't want to do all this work and have this gasket leak on me eventually. So since I had the axles pulled out, I figured might as well. I mean, this gasket's like less than 10 bucks. It's just more work. But while we're here, let's do it. Because if I procrastinate and put the axles in and rebuild the knuckles and the wheel bearings and this leaks, I have to take those axles out again, and I don't want to do work twice. So we're just going to do it all in one shot and call it a day on the front axle. Well, this was literally about an hour, hour and a half of cleaning. That gasket is really thick stuff, and it was bonded to the diff pretty good. There's still like another half of the gasket that's bonded to the third member, so I've got to clean that all up. I hit the axle with a little bit of rust reformer, as well as the oil pan, since it was pretty bad. Time to clean up this third member. We're gonna clean the gasket mating surface for the axle, and I'll be wire brushing all of the surface rust off. That way we can hit that with rust reformer as well and have it protected for the future. This is ready for the third member to go back in. I sprayed a little bit more under here. Under the frame was a little rusty, so I sanded it with the wire, or I wire brushed it and then hit it with the light coat. And I did the same all the way down. The outside is still factory. I have to spend more time to do the outer rail, but this lower lip was super bad, so I took care of it. As far as, or as much as I could for now. There's a lot more to be done for sure, but since we have the third member out and the drive shaft, I have a lot of room, so I figured I'd take advantage and get a little bit of that done. Anyways, I'm ready to throw in this third member. I'm going to put a little bit of Honda Bond as a FIPG gasket because there are some imperfections on the third member and the axle housing, but nothing too crazy. Very light skim coat. While I was looking for the Honda Bond, I found Toyota Seal Packing FIPG, which is basically the Toyota equivalent, so we'll be using that instead. No, it's definitely not seated, but now it is. I put the other axle in a little bit where the two flat spots held it, so when I spun the pinion, it'll let it fall all the way in. So this one's done. Now I'm gonna spin it. Those flat spots, when it's not in line, prevent it from coming out. So that's good. The other side, since I already halfway got it in, it should just plop right in. Hopefully that's the case. Okay, one last thing we need to do is get the small bearing ready. And I will flip this over. Let me put it on something clean. And I have the nuts and lock washers and all that ready to go, so I'm not scrambling for it later on. So now we could slide this right on and get that wheel bearing in. And we'll put in the first locking ring with the lock nut, and that'll just hold it for now. All right, I don't want to get this rotor greasy again, but I'll have to touch that bearing full of grease, which is gonna suck. Anyways. All right, there we go. That's what I was looking for. That's what we're looking for. Okay, this wheel bearing preload is something that I knew was going to tie me up, and it did. I tried following the steps that I saw on a YouTube video where they tighten to 43 foot-pounds, spin the wheel hub assembly, tighten to 43 foot-pounds, back it off, hand tighten, and then check the resistance with a fish scale, like a little hook. So it's supposed to be like 12 foot-pounds resistance. Mine is way higher. I couldn't figure it out. I went on the forums, and I Hate Mud was basically saying to skip the step of measuring with the fish scale, to do the 43 foot-pounds, spin the hub assembly, back it off, tighten it to 15 foot-pounds, put the lock washer on, the second locking nut, tighten that to 43 foot-pounds, and then hit the tabs on the locking washer. So that's what I'm gonna do. They swear by it, and I'm no one to deny it. This is my first time doing this, and hopefully the wheel bearings last quite a while. This feels good. I am sticking with it. So we will have to bend a tab forward and backward. Which one's the best one? So this one's going back. This one will go forward. So one back, one forward. We'll clean this up and get it ready for the hub assembly. Okay, so that's locked. Oh yeah, you hear that? Axle's fully engaged. 3. Perfect. So that works. Now we just need to get the hardware. The nuts were all rusted up, so I got stainless nuts and split washers, just so we don't have to worry about any of that in the future. Okay, let's pop this open and I'll show you exactly why we ordered all those parts. So there is a hood prop rod that goes right here, but you can also flip it all the way over and get a bunch more room. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm always cautious of closing this and getting the cover out of the way, make sure I don't pinch anything. So if you haven't seen my previous videos, this is the motor. It's got 52,800 original miles. I took the head off, changed the head gasket, a couple of valves, valve seals. Every gasket basically from the head up is replaced, rebuilt the carburetor, new fuel pump, and it fired right up. So now we're just getting onto the braking system and all the powertrain to get it to drive safely. I don't want to go on my maiden voyage and have a breakdown anywhere. So we've got the clutch slave right here. There's nothing visually wrong with it that I can see in here, but I'll have to jump inside and check. Aside from the resi just having obvious cracks from age, here we have the brake master. What worried me most about this is that we've got a little bit of leakage from the cylinder, and brake fluid always eats the paint. So you can buy a rebuild kit. I don't know how good the bore is on this, so I ordered a new one. If it's rebuildable, I will keep it and rebuild it for originality's sake. But the one I got is gonna be brand new. I won't have to worry about any problems, so that one is going in for now. The only thing I'll have to transfer over are these pressure sensors. And jumping over to the brake lines, these are literally the original brake hoses from 1978. And I know this because of this right here. We've got 11 of 78, which is the exact VIN production date on the door tag. So I don't trust these going down the road. And once I get those lines on, I will be taking the calipers off and rebuilding those as well. Here we have the clutch slave line, which is also date coded with 11 of 78. And there we've got the clutch slave. So what concerned me the most on the clutch slave was actually this fluid coming out of the drainage. That is literally brake fluid. So the clutch slave has failed. And that's why I bought that. Another hydraulic component that I don't want failing on the maiden voyage. It's cheap enough to replace and not worry about it in the future. And last but not least, this brake line right here from the frame down to the axle is also date coded 11 of 78, which is the factory hose. There's one more going from the frame down to the axle in the front, so that makes 4. You've got 2 from the frame down to the axle and 2 in the front from the axle to the brake caliper. and then the clutch slave hose is the 5th. I wanted to show you way up close some of the things that this brake line kit addresses. So you've got this one that goes here, and then this line will now go directly into the caliper. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is when I took it apart, I thought it was very strange that this bracket right here bolted to the top of this shield, and if you ever needed to change your brake pads, you have this hard line because this soft line bolts to the shield so you can turn, but then they went to a hard line which goes to the caliper. So you would have to take this whole mess off every time you want to service the brakes. Now, since it's going to be soft line directly to the caliper, I can just unbolt it and move it around with free play. I don't need to worry about this hard line getting in the way of anything. And then this guy, which is way longer, is going to go from here, which is basically just the mounting point, and then go down to this block, and this block bolts up here. Now you can see right away that this hose is way longer, and the reason being is it's accounting for lift and for more travel, which this will have once we put a kit on it. Anyways, it's very tight quarters. You won't see me in depth changing this thing, so we'll do a quick time lapse and get it all swapped out. Let me see that. That's crushed right there. That is not transferring hardly any brake fluid at all to the passenger side. Looked at the driver's side just to be sure I wasn't missing anything. You see that? It's a nice bend. This is the driver's side tube. It's a little brake fluid. I just cleaned it out. So I bought this for the Tacoma. I haven't used it yet, but it is a brake flare toolkit that has the correct flare for this FJ40. Right here, this is one that I made as a little practice run for the Tacoma, so I will be using it on the Land Cruiser. And there it is, very close as I can get it with the tools that I have. I just need to cut the ends, rob the fittings, flare the new line, and then we can continue moving forward. So these lines didn't come with any instructions. If it did, it would have been 10 times easier, but I finally figured out which braided hoses go where, how to route it. I've got my line that I bent right there, blending in nice and factory style, just like the driver's side, which I routed over the axle and plumbed it over here to this stainless line. Still don't have the calipers on yet, but that other line that you see hanging just above the pinion, that is the clutch slave line, and I changed the clutch slave as well. So every brake hose in this FJ40 is replaced. And right here we have a better view of the stainless braided line to the new slave right there. If you look back on the axle, there is one more line. You can't really see it, but it's up on the left by the leaf pack. and I have the hose for that. I just need to get to the rear axle once the front's all buttoned up. So the brake master is easy. We've got 2 lines right here, 4 bolts holding it to the booster. There's a little plunging rod that keeps it separate, so I just remove and replace really quick. This guy bolts to the firewall, and there is a little hook that's fastened to the pedal. But just similar to what I showed you underneath where it was leaking out of the boot, we do have a leaking master. So the slave failed and the master failed. And honestly, I haven't even looked under here yet, but I'm glad that I went ahead and just ordered everything, and we'll just call it done. Anyways, let's get on to the repairs. We'll time lapse this one, make it quick and easy. Man, and I just keep getting proven right time after time. Look at all the fluid that leaked out of the master cylinder. We're gonna have to clean that up and touch it up a little bit before I put the new one in. But right here you can see where it was just leaking out. Now you can take this snap ring out and pull the shaft out and rebuild it, but I don't know what the condition of the shaft is and if it's still usable. You know, if it's got pitting, it's useless. Aside from that, you know, these plastic reservoirs are all cracked from being just old and brittle now due to age. So we're just gonna change it. Here we have the new replacement. I'm not thrilled about the reservoir being blue, but it is what it is at this point. It's pretty much a one-to-one replacement. Besides that, I measured from the base here to the end of the flange, and I set it at the same setting. If I need to readjust, I could just break this loose, hold this right here, you can see it better there, and adjust. And I also set the slave to what the factory one was as well, so there's always room for adjustment. I just need to get it on the road, see what the pedal feels like, and we can go from there. But for now, I'm going to wire wheel some of this off, hit it with a little bit of rust reformer, let it dry, and then put it all back together. I'm gonna wrap it up for tonight. We have the brake master, clutch master, and all of the stainless lines installed along with the clutch slave. The clutch master, we'll get that bled. I'm not hooking up the brake lines yet until I get the calipers rebuilt. Then I'll put them on and we'll bleed that system. Rebuild, let me show you a couple of things I did off camera. Most notably, you'll see the front frame. I painted that with Steelit, so I took the front bumper off. There was a little bit of rust right here on this black part, and just all over there was a little bit of rust inside, so I wire wheeled everything I could. I put a leaf blower in the holes, blew all the crud out, and then hit it with some rust reformer, let that cure, and then I hit it with 2 coats of black Steelit on all of the frame. So it's beautiful. It is my absolute favorite paint to use on anything black. I hit just the bottom of that radiator support as well. Looking closer at the grill, we're going to have to do this. You can see where the paint is actually just coming off completely, so I'll need to refinish that. And you can see right here, I got the tie rods just thrown in. I painted the actual tie rods themselves because they came raw, so I masked everything up, painted that with Steelit, set them as close as I could to where they were at. That way the alignment's not way off, but we'll have to fine tune that for sure. And then lastly, you can't really see, but in here it was completely rusted. The chrome bumper is aftermarket. The bumper is stock, but the chroming was done after the fact. They're supposed to be like a pewter silver. So whoever chromed this bumper, they did a pretty small nickel plate. It's not as good as it can be. So anyways, the nickel plating back here was just like blowing off, and this was all rusted. So I took it off, wire wheeled everything, hit it with rust reformer, and put it back on. So that's what I was doing the last couple of days. It took a lot of time. I hit the bumper with a little bit of Blue Magic polish, took the license plate frame off because that was full of rust, and I'll get that put back on later. But that's pretty much it. I pumped this thing full of grease. There's no slack in it from what I can tell right now. It's still a very low mileage vehicle, so hopefully that's all good. And I cleaned up everything here, pumped that Zerk full of grease, and just cleaned up as much as I could. So it looks really, really nice. I still need to get to the rest of the frame so you can see the difference from everything I've done all the way back. So this will be getting treated all the way back. Once I start getting into this bottom area, I'm gonna have to mask it off. That way we're not getting a bunch of overspray everywhere. But regardless of that, let's get these calipers rebuilt and hopefully get this thing off the jack stands by the end of the video. So this is the chaos that I call a workbench. I built it to work on the quad motor, and ever since then I've just been accumulating parts for other projects, and it's getting out of control. But I'm clearing out some room today so we can get these things rebuilt. I've got the other one over there, but we'll get to it after this. And if you need to see what these things look like, this is the rust reformer that I've been using. This is the steelet that I use as well, and I'll put the links in the description below if you need that. These are the cylinder kits, basically a bunch of O-rings and little wire snaps to hold the boot on. I'll put that in the link as well. And I got this air chuck off Amazon so we can put it into where the brake line would normally go and try to get these out. The trick is we need to get these out evenly. So if I don't put anything right now and I blow air in here, so either one or two of them are going to pop out, but you kind of need them in there to get these other two out, or vice versa. So we'll start with maybe like a little spacer in between both, or maybe some pliers. It's just going to depend on which ones are stuck, which ones want to play, and which ones don't. So we'll time lapse this and see how it goes. These are the two calipers, and man, they are dirty, dirty, dirty. I've seen better days for sure. This one I already dismantled a little bit. We still have the pads in here. I mean, they still had great life. It's probably had one pad change at one point because the rotors were pretty much at the last leg of their life. But what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to strip this one so it looks like this, and we'll wire wheel it clean so we have a nice clean caliper to work with. And from there, we'll start getting these cylinders out. Okay, so we have the caliper rebuilt. Got the correct side on this side because the bleeder's up on top. All I have to do is thread it onto this guy, lock it down, throw on these bolts, and then we can throw the brake pads on. So let's get to it. This thing's hard to twist. Here's a closer look from the rear side. So turning, it's gonna be perfectly fine, but this way it just stretches just a little bit on that boot. I don't think it'll be an issue. I obviously not a huge fan by the sound of my voice. I wish it was a ½ inch longer, but this will have to do if they say this is normal. For whatever reason, the passenger side has way better clearance. It's not tight at all. And then right here, it gets a little weird, but it's not stretching like the other side does at full lock. So we'll have to see what's going on. Anyways, it's getting dark. I'm not gonna get this on the ground today. I'll finish up this caliper and we'll wrap it up tomorrow. And I'm sorry guys, but that was a lie, a little white lie. It's been weeks since that last little clip, and it's because I've been doing other stuff around the house and just haven't had time to get back to it since that night. So we're going to throw the brake pads in right now, wrap the front end up, get it on the ground, change the pinion seal, and throw the drive shaft in. Little things like this are just small victories for me. I haven't had brakes on it for months at this point, and this just looks fantastic. I did order a second spring. This is a little trick that the Tacoma guys do. So we do 2 springs on top and bottom, just so everything spaces out when it's released. I figured for $3 or $4, let's try it on the Land Cruiser, see what happens. So far, everything seems to have proper clearance. Doesn't look like it's getting in the way of anything. So I'm gonna jump on over to the passenger side and we'll get this thing off the jack stands. Tight fit under here, but I needed the wheels on the ground so that I could get this pinion locked and loosen up the nut without an impact. I want to do it with hand tools so that way I don't mess up any of the shims back here. All right, I had to get out and abort that because there's just not enough room to be using the crawler. It's just too low. But I loosened up the nut. It's a 30 millimeter. Loosen up the nut. There's a washer, and then this yoke goes on there. It didn't want to come off, so I used a little puller, zapped it right off, and you can see the old seal. Luckily it's not leaking. The old seal isn't leaking, but we got a brand new one anyways, which is going to be this guy. And then we'll that looks crazy. We'll throw this in and throw the drive shaft on and call it a wrap. And just like that, it's on. I used the axle nut socket, which fits safely around here. Tapped it all the way in. And now we're ready to throw this back on. I Scotch-Brighted the surface so that the seal has a new clean surface to ride on. We'll torque that nut, and I think that's what we're gonna call it a wrap on this video. We got a lot of work done. If you haven't noticed already, we still need to bleed the front brakes, bleed the rear brakes, which need to be rebuilt, so that's why I haven't done it yet. I've got to set the pedal height, the clutch slave throw, and then we could bleed that as well. But we'll save that for the next video. All right, YouTube, we are back again on the Land Cruiser. I don't even know what part this is right now, but we need to get the rear axle torn apart completely, change all the seals, change the fluid, change the transfer case seal, rear brake line, rebuild the wheel cylinders, change the shoes and drums, and then this thing goes on the ground, and pretty much done after that. Maybe look at some of the cooling system. I think the radiator might be leaking a little bit, but other than that, it should be ready for the road. Let's go. All right, so I originally had this jack stand put right here, thinking I was gonna take everything apart, but I have to drain the fluid first, and it was in the way of the catch. So I jacked it up with the Pro Eagle, and now we will get the wrench and catch, and we'll get the fluid drained out. Now, the fluid in the front diff was in actually pretty good condition. I'm kind of worried about what this one's gonna look like, but we'll see it together. And I got the wrong size. All right, I'm gonna loosen the fill first. Okay. The front magnet did have quite a bit of metal, but that's not uncommon for these old. Oh, that looks good. It's got the right color for sure. It's not all black. And a lot less stuff on this drain plug. Way less, actually. It looks great. So we've got a few things going on down here. If you watched the last video, you saw that I had painted the front half of the frame. We still have all of this to do in the back. This is a whole aftermarket fuel assembly thing. Those are all plastic lines that are completely rotted out. And it was an auxiliary tank. Let's jump over here, which is still in here. But I need to get a camera to go into the tank and see what's going on with it. Unfortunately, they did put a big old hole in the side of this deal, and there's really no going back from that. So I might stick with the aux fuel tank, but I'm not a huge fan of the way it looks from here. It looks too big and bulky. I'm not gonna drive the thing on far trips, so we may just take it out altogether and leave that gas cap over there on the side. Aside from that, we've got a few other weird quirks to work out. One, this is a speedometer cable. Two, that exhaust has been modified pretty bad. So what happened is they put the aux fuel tank, you can't put the exhaust sideways anymore. And so they just went straight all the way back out the driver's side versus passenger side. But I don't know where this routes. I'm going to take it off and try to find some diagrams online and definitely put it over the pipe. I don't like the fact that it's under. The last thing we need to do is change the seal that's in that housing right there. This is the e-brake drum that's pretty much got shoes like a regular setup, and you can see right here that it's leaking. So it's been leaking for a while. I already changed the front output shaft, so we'll do the rear output shaft, and I'll give this the same treatment as we did in the front. We'll wire blast all this surface rust off, hit it with the rust reformer, hit it with the steelit, and hopefully have everything looking as good as new. And I want that frame to look just as good back here all the way around. And we'll take these lights off, bumperettes right here, and the hitch, and we'll paint all that fresh black, seal it, hopefully to have it looking great for years to come. Check this out. That is disgusting. And I hate spiders, so it doesn't help. But this thing has been sitting for well over 20 years, and that's just what happens. These little things, critters and insects build up homes. Look at this. Over the years. And this is what happens. But we will get it cleaned up. Anyways, let's keep moving forward. All right, this is when the disassembly begins for the rear end. I am beginning to drain the transfer case. That way we can have it all nice and empty when we change the seal behind the e-brake drum. And I also wanted to take off the brake drums themselves from the axle. This is really hard. On my Tacoma, there's two threaded taps that you just put some 12mm bolts in and zap them equally while the drum gets pushed off of the hub. But it's not the case on this one, so I have to just tap it off and use a little bit of leverage until they come off. Sometimes you may need to loosen up the wheel cylinders so that the brake shoes aren't fighting you the whole way out. Either way, we got this off, so let's investigate further. And how could I forget? Look at the condition of these shoes. These are basically brand new. I mean, this thing has 52,000 original miles. We are still going to rebuild the wheel cylinders. I did order new shoes and drums, but I'm going to see how much is really on here compared to a new one. And maybe we'll keep the new ones for future. Once this wears out, I'll just refinish the old drum and throw it back together. We shall see, but this looks great. None of these are leaking. I'm not sure if they're sticking. I know we did have some calipers in the front sticking, so we're definitely going to be changing that. Wheel bearings and axle seal. All right, we got a rear drive shaft out. I will throw this in the stack of parts that needs to get refinished. And we have a bunch more room underneath to start getting that e-brake removed off the transfer case and change the seal that's leaking behind that, so I can put it all together, fill up the transfer case, and call that done for now. So it's pretty tight quarters. I didn't have the tripod under here when I took it apart, but basically there's the drum that's got a 27 millimeter nut. You take that off, then right behind that there's going to be 4 12 millimeter bolts that go through this and hold it onto that. And then right here is going to be the seal that failed. There is a company that machines this housing to accept 2 of these seals back to back, but this doesn't need it. It's just got a bad seal. Sometimes you get a drum that has the male part that goes in that's really wore out, and you'll want to put a speedy sleeve on that. And I may just do that on ours since it's a part anyways. But for now, we're just going to change this seal out, clean all this up as much as we can with the wire wheel, and get it put back together and jump onto the rear axle. Time to get this gas tank out. Hopefully the rusty bolts don't bite me too much, but once I get those loosened up, we'll loosen the filler neck, get the jack under, and try to bring it down. That was a little difficult there. Not too bad. This thing looks huge. I mean, there's got to be a bunch of gas. I could still smell it. That's the old label right there. I can't really read how many gallons it was, but there's some fuel in there for sure. The only sketchy thing is it was plumbed with all of this plastic line, which right now you can see it's just breaking everywhere. And it's pretty ugly, crusty under here. So that was the motivation for taking it out in the first place, so we could knock all that dirt off, clean it up, and then maybe put it back in. We might put it back in, but I have to get one of those little camera deals that you can use with the app on your phone and kind of prod it in there and see what's going on. There is a little bit of fuel that looks like it might be seeping right here. So it may not be good after all, but it's not high on the priority list. The way I routed the fuel when I got the engine running was bypassing the aux tank completely and going back to stock. So right now it's not going to hurt anything. It's already plumbed to work independently, just like it was from the factory. So we'll start cleaning up that axle, the rear frame, and get it all painted. Since I'm working on the ground, the space is limited, but I jacked it up just high enough to get some room to wire wheel everything I can. I disassembled some stuff, but not all. So this isn't the complete job, but right here we're wire wheeling everything we can in preparation for the Rust Reformer. And there is also a huge parts order that I placed that just arrived. So we'll go straight into that and also rebuilding the wheel cylinders. Okay, real quick, we've got a factory steering stabilizer. I was looking at the aftermarket ones and none of them really caught my eye, so I figured we'll just keep it stock, keep it nice. We've got 2 drums, the gasket for the third member on the rear axle, and the gasket for the differential cover on the rear axle. Some new shoes for the drums. Where are they at? So we got shoes right here, and this box has a bunch of goodies. I'll throw a picture right here to the left that'll show you everything, but basically it is every single emblem for the outside. We've got axle seals, tail light covers, tail light gaskets, all new hubcaps for every wheel, and a few other small miscellaneous bits. And I've been doing a ton of work on all of the parts that were rusty, so everything's been coated with Rust-Oleum Rust Reformer. The only thing we have to do right now is get started rebuilding these rear wheel cylinders. We are up close and personal in the rear differential of the Land Cruiser. So we've got a clip here and a clip there. We're going to pull them straight back out, and by doing that we will take out this 12 mil, which I already did. It's this guy right here. Pulled it out, and that is holding the shaft in, which I'm now going to push from the top down. All right, just kind of pull it out, and then this piece is gonna fall. So let's see. All right. I don't really want this coming out all the way. Oop, there it goes. So we have that piece in the center, the shaft that goes through it. This retaining bolt that held it together. And now you can see, we'll pull these clips out. So first one, actually, I've got to push the axle in. I'm gonna do this passenger side since it's easier, so check this out. I just pushed it with my hand, right on the flange. There's the clip. Now, the whole axle will come out. See that? So, we're gonna do the same for the driver's side, but I gotta put the phone down. So here we have the shaft. It's a little heavy, so let's see how good I am one-handed. And this is gonna be the later model one where I don't have a race to replace on this. It has a hardened metal shaft that doesn't need to be replaced like some of the older models. Right here we can see the seal is tired for sure. The bearings feel great. They only got 50,000 on them, but we're going to change it all. So we'll pop these out and see how easy the bearing is to come out. From everything I've read, it could be easy or very hard. Let's pop this guy out. Easy. Oh yeah, that's still very good. Let's see what this looks like. Oh yeah, these are good, good, good. Oh well, we got new ones. Yes, this was something I've been dreading about doing. I've had this puller kit for years, and today it just paid itself off. So we just pulled it straight out, no problems. Do it on the other side and call it a day for tonight. Get those bearings pressed in tomorrow. It's the next day. I'm going to Scotch-Brite this real quick. That way we have it nice and clean for the new wheel bearing. This is the old one. I doubt it matters at all, but I can see I pulled it out with the letters facing inward. So we're gonna put this one facing the same way. And this has been in the freezer for about an hour, so it's shrunk up a little bit. Should go in really easy. I use the axle nut socket from the front axle, or I'm going to use it, and it looks like it fits pretty perfect. So we'll try it this way and hopefully it goes in smooth. It's going. Let's get a bigger hammer. Okay, so this is hitting a little ridge on the axle. So I won't be able to get it in like that. All right, well, plan B is the OEM bearing cut, so that way it doesn't get stuck in there. I figured I was going to have to do it, but I didn't want to. Either way, this should be foolproof now. You can tell when you get it all the way in because it has a nice little clunk. That's solid right there. All right, this is ready for the seal. And of course, it is a factory replacement. I'll link everything I can in the description below. Normally, I'll put grease on this inner ring, but since we aren't putting the axle in yet, I'll do it later. Right now, I'm just gonna put a very, very thin coat on here. And I don't want it too thick, so I'm gonna wipe off some of the excess. And there we have it. We've got the wheel bearing and seal pressed in. I can get the rebuilt wheel cylinders installed, and we can get to taking out that third member. Thankfully, removing the third member is quick and easy because we have the axle shafts removed It's just a matter of getting the nuts off all the way around, using a jack to break the seal, and going under there with a crawler to pull it out. It is pretty heavy, so it's kind of hard, but in the end, we got it done. Got the third member out, ready to get wire brushed and rust reformed. The only thing is that gasket stayed on just like the front axle, so hopefully it comes off a little easier. It's all in one piece, but if it's anything like the front, it's gonna give me some grief. So let's see how hard it is. Well, this is just as bad as the front. I am literally razor blading this off piece by piece. I can't really get a camera in here to show you the whole thing, but watch the front axle rebuild video. Nothing spectacular, just a bunch of scraping and wire reeling. From here, I'm just gonna start filming getting the third member back onto here with the new gasket. So there's the third member back in. I put a small amount of FIPG on both sides of the gasket, torqued it to spec. I didn't film it. It is way too hard under there, and that thing's too heavy to get it in and get it on film without a lot of curse words. So skip that part, and we're just going to grease up the axle seal. I've already Scotch-Brighted the axle, and we'll slide it in. Do the same for both sides. Get the wheel cylinders put on. If I have enough time, we'll get to the diff cover, but if not, we'll just keep on rolling tomorrow. So we've got the wheel cylinders orientated correctly, and there's actually an angle on these little wheel cylinder pieces right here where you have to angle it downward so when it releases it goes away. So I've got that done on this side properly and this side properly. These are going to be flat, so there's no worries. And then all of these are the same. So originally the spring on the outside forward was out and inside on the rear. People on I Hate Mud say it's the other way around, but this was untouched, so I'm putting it back the exact same way I took it off. Anyways, we'll throw some grease on these pivot points and go from there. Alright, so this goes on here. Here's the contact patch. Okay, so this is pretty much set up right where I want it to be. I couldn't find this paper gasket for the Land Cruiser, but there was one when I took off the original drum. So I used the part number off of a 2015 Tacoma, and it was like $1 for that gasket. So we've got one spring in, one spring out. I set these as short as I could, and you have to kind of center the shoe a little bit in order for this drum to go on. So right now it's going on very easy, and what I'm going to have to do is put a screwdriver back in here and open this until I get it to kind of rotate with a little drag. From there it'll self-adjust, but I don't want to put it together being this loose, that's for sure. So I'll need to mess with it a little bit, but I'm going to leave this as is, knock out the other side, and then we'll get the differential cover gasket on. All right, it is the next day, and I'm just going to prep this with a little bit of alcohol before we get the cork gasket on. That way there's no oil or anything funny keeping it from having a proper seal. We've just had daylight savings over the weekend, and I am running out of daylight during the week. So I'm actually working on my lunch break right now. Here's gonna be the diff cover with all that stuff grinded off. And this doesn't get torqued very high. It's only about 9 foot-pounds. I've got some neighbors framing next door, so that's what that noise is. And there's nothing like OEM gaskets. This stuff is beautiful. Always fits right, and it always lasts. So we'll pop this cover back on. And all these runs, these are all factory. I just hit it with rust reformer and a skim coat of Steel It, but all these imperfections are factory. And I'm gonna zap them on, but it'll be very, very light. We're gonna rely on the good old torque wrench to make sure everything's set up properly. And since it's cork, I like to let it kind of settle a little bit when I do the first round, and then go over it one more time all the way around. Should be it. So basically the whole axle is put back together. The only thing I need to change is the front pinion seal, but I'm going to do that with the wheels on the ground, so that way it doesn't roll around and I can torque it properly. I still have tape on this because I didn't want to paint the block. It's silver, so I don't want everything black. And obviously we still have to connect the brake lines and bleed everything. There's one more line that goes all the way across to the other side. We are getting straight to work on this. There is no time to waste. The weather is bad and I'm working with small windows between daylight and rain. So we're taking off the rear suspension in order to install the lift kit, which is leaf springs, extended shocks, and extended brake lines. Well, as you can see, I got the leaf springs out. It wasn't that bad. Just a couple of bolts in the front and a pin that goes through. And then the shackle has 2 nuts. You just pop that off. I've got the the pinion supported with that jack so it doesn't go anywhere. So that axle is just floating right now. And then I've got my 10-ton jack stands holding up the rear of the frame. So I need to get in here, clean a little bit, paint it with a quick coat of Steel It, and then we can start putting on the new shackles and leaf springs. So this part's pretty easy. I'm just greasing up the new bushings and then getting them ready to put into the frame with the greasable pins and the greasable shackles. Everything needs to be maneuvered into place perfectly so that it all bolts up without issue. Alright, so I got the leaf springs hung yesterday, but I realized that I didn't get sent the bushings that go into the frame side, so they're just hanging for now, but I'm going to throw on a few more pieces, try to get the rear end finished up as best as we can, and then I've got a set of bushings coming in 1 to 2 days. So once the bushings come in for the frame side, we'll be able to tie it all together, but right now I'm going to put the brake lines across, I'm going to hang the shocks, get the reservoirs mounted on top, just kind of get it prepped for the bushings to come in, and then we'll grease everything, torque all those, and get the U-bolts tightened up as well. For now, it's still hanging on the jack stands, but either way, we're really getting down to just some of the easy reassembly. I wasn't really planning on doing this, but I got to throw the old bushings in. We've got tons of palm trees and there's a landscaper coming today to clean them up, and I do not want them falling on the Land Cruiser. So we're going to put some old bushings in, get it on the ground, roll it out, and then we'll keep it safe from those falling leaves. Then we can bring it back in, we'll get the new bushings in and get the shocks on. Alright, so no sooner than I just got the Land Cruiser down onto the ground with the old bushings in the frame, Amazon shows up and brings me my new set. So, right back up it goes. This one's going to be quick and easy, and I will have the bushings ready to knock the front out. Right after that last clip, the rear lift kit was complete. I got the Land Cruiser backed out of the driveway, and the landscapers were able to trim the palm trees without worrying about dropping them or accidentally hitting the Land Cruiser with it. From there, I took the opportunity to back it into the driveway, and over the next couple of afternoons, I installed the front lift kit, which was essentially the same. It's leaf springs, shocks, extended brake lines, greasable pins, greasable shackles, and now we're just getting to the point where we can put it on all fours with the front and rear lift kit complete and see what I've been envisioning the whole time. But before you get to see that, there is one more thing I need to tackle before we can call everything complete and I have all the parts that I bought for it onto the Land Cruiser. And this was really easy compared to everything else in the grand scheme of things. I'm refinishing the frame, so I took off the bumperettes, the hitch, the taillights, masked everything off, hit it with a few coats of Steal-It to match the rest of the frame that I refinished, and I put the bumperettes back on. The taillights had new lenses and new gaskets from Toyota, and here's the finished product. It is a new day. I don't know if you can tell, but the sun sets and rises a few times in this video because I'm working after work. But I had lightly sanded this. Steal-It likes a rough surface to really grab into the surface that it's being sprayed onto. I removed that hitch. I don't think I'll be putting it back on, but we'll see. I've got all of the lenses cleaned up. I put a little bit of polish on that. It's not chrome, so it's not supposed to be super shiny, but I put a little bit of polish to bring out the shine, and everything's detailed. I already screwed it in, but everything's detailed in the back. So we'll swing around this side and show you. So I painted that part of the frame. This is the housing to the light, which doesn't get painted. It's also this zinc color, so I'm leaving it alone. But there's shields that bolt on, which are painted in the same Steal-It, but just look at how great that looks. It's really amazing how well it sprays. And again, that's the same stuff I used on the frame all the way up to the front, and you can see it in the other videos where I show some before and afters as well. And of course, I used some Steal-It on the axles and under the frame, just everywhere I could get it. Anyways, let's get these taillight lenses on and the bumperettes, and we'll see how it all looks. And there we have it, all buttoned up. It looks absolutely amazing. Brand new gaskets, brand new taillight, Steal-It on the frame. I cleaned up the bumperettes with some a little bit of cutting compound before I put it back together. And I made sure that when I cranked these down, I didn't chip off a bunch of paint. So that looks perfect. And you can see the covers in the back. And I did remove the trailer harness wiring and the ball hitch. So it's a little simplified back here. I may put one of the, there's the other cover. I may put one of the hitch receivers, or I was also looking at the little mount that has a hard shackle. So that one's pretty sweet, but either way, this thing is ready to drive, and I do have the front lift installed, so maybe we can get it pulled out of the driveway and see what the whole package looks like. Well, there it is, guys. We have our 2.5-inch lift kit fully installed with 33-inch tires. The sun started peeking out, so I figured might as well. Let's get it washed. Let's do a quick clay bar and just set a baseline for when it's actually detailed properly. But it was exciting to see all my work over the last year kind of come to an end. And I did have the Land Cruiser at the house for another year prior while I was doing all of the engine work, cooling system, and all that stuff under the hood. So this has been 2 years in the making, and I'm pretty excited. So doing the first car wash right now was actually a pretty pivotal moment in my ownership of this Land Cruiser. Well, there she is. I got the wheels cleaned up with some heavy cut compound, and then I polished them out and put some ceramic spray I didn't want to put the hubcaps on until I did all of that. So that's pretty much the final look right there with the 2.5-inch lift and the 33-inch tires. And if you watched the first walk around video, we had the wrong rear hubcap when I purchased it. So we got brand new OEM hubcaps all the way around, but I got the correct one for the rear. And man, this thing is looking absolutely beautiful. So all I did was wash this, hand wash with soap, and I did a quick clay bar, but I will have another video with my friend that details to actually get a good, maybe stage 1 paint correction done on it. It's not super bad, but it does have a small haze. So once we get that haze worked out and all of these water spots off the windows, then this thing is going to be done. And we'll start hitting trails and doing all that fun stuff. But for now, we're just gonna cruise around the way it is and enjoy it. We are back working on the Land Cruiser again. This time we're changing out the radiator, changing out the heater core. We're going to change a thermostat housing gasket just because it showed that it had a little leak. And we're going to be swapping out all of the worm gear style clamps to OE clamps, and I'll flip the camera around and show you what's going on. Okay, so this is the motor. When I did the motor work, this was meaning to be sold to someone else. I wasn't really going to buy this thing, so we were just getting it running. I was just using whatever clamps that were on the vehicle already. Someone had changed them out, but I did change all the hoses. So I got a bunch of OE style clamps, and what I mean by that is they are double wire like that, and they're, you know, just a bolt looking deal that threads. The ones I got are zinc plated. These are factory, which are just steel with a little coating. A lot of them rust. But the main thing that started all this, I can't drive this yet. It's not registered. The DMV won't let me register it till January. And when I did my last test drive with it, the heater wasn't working. So I know that it's getting coolant into the valve at least, which is what I just showed you with the 2 clamps, but I don't know if it's going further. And in the condition that everything was in before, I can't imagine it being clean inside the core, and that valve could most likely be clogged as well. So I just ordered a new valve instead of messing with the old one. And I made or put together a little heater core flush kit. So clear tubing, a little bib that connects to your hose, and a swivel ball that's going to adjust and control the pressure so we can flush it out without issue. Now, if it doesn't flush out with just water, we'll have to use some muriatic acid, but hopefully it's just water that we can get all the gunk out. When I drained the radiator, there was a bunch of gunk in it, so I'll put that picture up right here, and you can see it was like green mixed with a little bit of brown. So that stuff was in the block. Now, if we circle back to why I took this apart in the first place, again, the grill mesh was in terrible condition. All of the black was gone. So I wanted to get to it, but in order to get to it, you have to take out the radiator. Now, the radiator had a small leak. So if you see that right there, that's a small leak coming from this thermostat housing gasket, which I did change. So I ordered a new OEM one, and we'll be putting that in with a little bit of silicone. So that won't be a big deal, but the radiator core had a small leak just like that, and I didn't want to mess with it anymore. It is an old radiator, so I went with a aluminum Mishimoto, and that just helped me get access to these guys, which has just got a couple bolts top and bottom on each side, and I was able to take it out and refinish it with black steel it just like I did all of the suspension, and put a new OEM Toyota emblem. So from there, we're just going to refinish a few things with rust reformer up here. Eventually, I'll get to the intake and redo that, make it look nice. But for now, we're more focused on getting these clamps changed out, flushing the core, putting the new radiator in, and getting it 100% dialed in for the moment it's registered in January. Then I could drive it without issue. So here we got the Mishimoto radiator side by side the factory radiator. So far everything's going to work, but I did notice that on the shroud, the fan shroud, I'll have to radius a little bit because it's kind of flat and it doesn't sit all the way flush right here. And I think that's it for the fan shroud mods, but I'll show you that when we get to that. This is the radiator I took out. Originally, when my father-in-law still owned it, He wanted to take this to a radiator shop, and they went through it and said it was good. But I knew deep down that it wasn't. You can see corrosion right here. I don't know why they would have wasted anyone's time saying that this radiator was good. But when I lift it up, it weighs a ton. I think there's a bunch of rust sitting out down here. The drain plug's not even in it, and I couldn't even get coolant out. I had to undo the clamp to get it all out. So the main leak was right there. You see that sideways diagonal leak? It was seeping a little bit of green coolant out, and just looking at that, I couldn't drive in good faith knowing that the radiator looked like that. So we're getting a new one. Now, one last thing I did, which I did on the Tacoma as well, is I got a bottle of 10K CST fan clutch fluid. Basically, you take this fan blade off and you've got this clutch that is bolted in with all these little bolts. So they're Phillips head on the other side. And so I opened it up. I took out, I did not take out the original fluid. I just left it, and I added one bottle. Some people drain all the fluid and replace it completely with 10K CST fluid. It comes with 6,500, I believe, or 6,000, one of those two. But the same thing I did on my truck was open it up, put in one bottle, worked fine. So we're gonna do the same thing for the Land Cruiser and hope we get the same results. Right here, I'm going to take off the original heater valve, and then we'll be able to compare and inspect it. Obviously with the new one already on hand, which I'm already going to put in, but this will just let us know if this is the issue. Okay, this is the original heater valve. This is the OEM replacement heater valve. You could still get it from Toyota. I'll put the links in the description below. After popping this out, I don't think the heater core is clogged. I really think this is the issue, and I'm gonna show you just very basic demonstration. So with this thing open, sorry, that's closed, nothing, open, bunch of airflow. So that's open. With this thing open, barely anything. Closed. It's working closed, but definitely not flowing in, and that's probably why the core is not getting hot to begin with. Either way, we got maybe 20 bucks in clear hose and fittings for the heater core flush. So we'll hook it up, put it into a bucket, see what comes out. All right, we are all set up with the heater core flush kit. This is very, very rudimentary. We have a 3/4 piece it's basically got a ball valve that connects to a 3/4 extension with a 5/8 nipple. The reason why you want this ball valve is to control the flow rather than running over to where the spigot is, which in my case, clear on the other side of the Tacoma. So we'll bring the hose, we'll control it from that. It's gonna go in just like it would have if it was coming from the radiator through there. And it's going to purge anything in the core back into this bucket. The coolant was a little dirty, but I was really thinking that we were gonna have a clogged, nasty, mucked up heater core because of how little heat I was getting, but it may have just been a lot of blockage in the heater valve. So hopefully the water is more than enough to clean it out. If not, we'll get some muriatic acid and put it in from the top hose in, but that's going to require a lot more precision because the acid is corrosive, and a lot more flushing because I don't want any acid in the coolant on a brand new aluminum radiator. Anyways, let's get to flushing and see what happens. Well, I thought I was recording and I totally was not, so I totally failed, but the coolant that's coming out is relatively clean. Basically, you open up the spigot a little bit. You don't want to put too much pressure in it, and then open it up. You can cycle it a few times to try to get the deposits out. The fluid, when it was coming out at first, was a little dirty, but this stuff's pretty clean. I'm not very concerned with it at all, and it's got a nice flow. So This thing should get nice and hot when we get the heater all put back together. So I got the hose disconnected, and I rinsed off some of the spillage from inside when I took off the heater hoses. But I'm going to pour some antifreeze in from the feed line down into the core until it starts coming out into the bucket. That way I know I have all of that water hose water out of the heater core, because it should be antifreeze or distilled water only. Well, you guys know I work outside and the weather has been terrible. I've got a small break in it right now, and I'm going to flip the camera around and show you what's going on trying to fit this Mishimoto radiator. So here we have the radiator shroud that's typically bolted to the frame, and then this is bolted to the frame further back for stability. So this is going to be right in front of the grill of the Land Cruiser. You've got bolts that line up, so these are perfect. The only thing I'm not super thrilled about is that right there, which I'm going to have to clearance. But coming over to this side, these are not lining up, and it is touching right there. So we're gonna have to clearance this one pretty good, but I don't think it'll be that big of an issue. And that one will clearance just a smidge. Now, once that's done, we've got a problem with this guy. And anyone that does aftermarket parts knows nothing fits perfectly. This is always going to happen when you modify things. So I'm not saying anything bad about Mishimoto, but we've got a shroud that needs to be radiused out right here to clear that neck, because it doesn't want to line up with these holes. And this one lines up just fine. So it's really just clearancing that needs to be done right there on the bottom, and I think we'll be good to go. All right, so here is the first cut, hopefully the last. Same on this side. And then the radiator shroud one. This one needs to be evened out just a smidge, but I want to see if I need to take any more off. So we'll get the radiator back out and see how it fits. Okay, so honestly, I couldn't even ask for a more perfect cut on this. Look at how centered we've got these holes. I mean, that is just money right there. Pretty crazy. So this one actually came out pretty perfect. I'll knock that top edge down just a bit. And then this one, same thing, pretty good right here. I just need to knock that corner down a little bit more. And then we can move on to painting that radiator black, because it is not going in raw aluminum. I ended up ordering all OEM clamps for the entire engine bay, and here is the old worm gear junk. I was going to use a aftermarket set of clamps. None of them fit right. The sizes weren't correct. The quantity in the kit wasn't correct. So I just sent it back, and we're going to just throw on all the new hose clamps all the way around. I already put the fuel clamps on, took the worm gear ones off. So we're gonna get it looking nice and factory. I hate jumping around in videos, but the weather's been really bad lately, and I've been working at odd hours, kind of late at night and whatnot. So you didn't get to see me spray this in black. But basically, I got 2 cans of this, and honestly, 1 can would have been fine, but I guess I have extra for later, or maybe even touch up. But this is Eastwood Radiator Black. It's designed to dissipate heat and not interfere with anything as far as cooling goes. So they recommend 2 coats. with a 30-minute flash time in between each one, which is exactly what I did here. And as you can see, it looks beautiful. So a lot of people were wondering why I went aluminum. It dissipates heat better than the original. The original radiator was trashed, and I like the way it looks black. It just looks very clean, and it's going to blend right in. So aside from that, these are all of the worm gear clamps that I took off. And it's a little windy outside, so I'm gonna go out there and show you, and hopefully the microphone is able to block out that wind. Well, as expected, the wind was just too much. The microphone was really choppy. So I'm just going to voice over and show you all of the clamps that I put in. I'm a little OCD, so they're all uniformly put in so they look good and lined up, at least in my eyes. From here, you can see the alternator bracket and the engine hook were also refinished, as well as the water pump pulley and the front main pulley. And I even went as far as taking that little engine girdle kind of subframe deal that goes across the frame at the bottom, took that out completely and refinished that whole deal. So a lot of this video was actually done over the course of almost like 3 or 4 weeks. It's taken me to do all this because the refinishing part takes so long. But I got the new emblem in the grill, the radiator mounting shroud is back in, and now we can drop in the radiator and get the fan clutch and fan shroud in and get it that much closer to firing up. Right here, I'm just showing you up close the air cleaner and all of the rust. It even had some rust inside. So I haven't touched that, but we've got the alternator bracket and the top portion of the air cleaner already sanded. This took literally hours of sanding, painting, and sanding again just to get it nice and blocked out even. And I figured we might as well do the alternator pulley while everything was apart. That way the entire pulley system is refinished. And then once we get that air cleaner back on, it'll make everything just look beautiful with the new radiator installed. Well, there it is, guys. I've been having issues with the wind all day, but we've got refinished grill, refinished radiator in black because it was raw aluminum, all OEM clamps, refinished the radiator shroud, pulleys, the engine cradle, the frame, and I also went ahead and put the new Land Cruiser emblems on the side. And so right now, you know the drill with the new radiator, you just top it off, turn the heater all the way, get the fluid through the core, bleed out all the bubbles, and then it's good to go. I'm still working on refinishing the air filter upper and lower portions, but we're gonna end the video here. We're pretty much all bolted back together with the exception of one alternator bracket to put tension on the belt itself. But I'm thinking that this looks great, and hopefully I stop working on this and start driving it. But either way, if you made it this far, thank you as always. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. This time I will be doing a somewhat unconventional thing, and we're actually going to be installing all of the smog components back onto it. And I'm going to flip the camera around and kind of show you what's going on and show you the parts that need to go on it. So as beautiful as this looks right now, unfortunately it's going to have a cluster of vacuum hoses, this air pump, the rail, and all the air injectors back in. And I'm doing that for a few reasons. One, I have the parts. They came with the Land Cruiser when I purchased it. And two, it'll make it more valuable in the long run. This thing isn't a high performance monster. I'm not out here to get all the horsepower I need, and I don't want to have to deal with illegal smogs in the future. So I did take this over to my buddy's shop and we pre-tested it. It passed 3 of the 4 checks, but it wouldn't pass the CO maximum allowed level, which was 1.56. It was constantly at 2.0. We couldn't get it down. Got everything else down, but I knew at some point I was going to have to revisit this subject on this build even after I got it running. So basically we're just gonna go back to stock. We're gonna get the air pump back on. We'll get all the vacuum hoses, all of the solenoids, and plumb it all, and hopefully that solves the problem. My smog buddy was definitely convinced that it will. And my most famous workbench is the dryer. If you watch my videos, I use the washer and dryer as a workbench more often than I should. But anyways, here is the air injection rail. This is going to be the hardest part for me to figure out. So originally these ports are screwed into the cylinder head, and I'll take this one off to show you. And then these ports from the cylinder head are screwed onto this rail. And then you've got a hose that comes from the air pump. And these are all vacuum pieces that go to who knows where. I have to decipher and figure out where all these go. Fortunately, they kept every nut, bolt, and washer that was removed from what I can see. I've got sensors. I even have the color matched body bolts that were missing from inside the engine bay. So jumping over to the real workbench, which has a ton of crap on it, but I'm going to show you what's what. This is going to be a shield for the factory header, and then we'll have the air pump right here. So this is where the belt rides, and you've got these 3 hoses. So one hose right here rides all the way up, and that goes to the air cleaner port. This hose just goes straight to this deal. Who knows what the heck that is? And then this hose is what's going to go onto that port right there. So if you're following along, we'll show you right here. So this one is going to go on the motor right here. It kind of snakes all the way down, and the air pump bolts to this bracket right here, and we'll have to put the belt on and a couple of other pieces to mount that up. From there, if you look, we've got 1, 2, 3, and this one I had made a temporary jumper harness to get the carb cool fan to work, but that was number 4 of not being used, and those are all part of this whole deal right here. I don't even know what it is called officially. I think it's a VSV, but it has all these things that need to get bolted to it. All of these vacuum lines. So if you look right here, you see that's 1, 2, and 3. They've got those flat recesses. So those are going to mount onto right here. So 1, 2, and 3. And you can see all those vacuum plugs that are plugged up. Let's see, so there's a bracket right here that's missing where these 2 wires would normally rest on. This is all empty because it's missing the hoses that go into these right here. And then there's a couple of vacuum hoses that swing around to the other side. And so that all gets bolted right here. It seems a little daunting at first, but I'm just gonna take my time. Everything's gonna fall into place eventually where it should. And we'll figure out what's missing. But like I said before, it shouldn't be too hard. Let me show you this. So this is the piece that goes on the carburetor. So this goes right here. So if you can see, it all kind of falls into place. Like this is gonna go, I believe, onto here, and then you've got these 2 receivers for the smooth part of those plugs. So it's a nightmare. I don't want to make the engine bay look all cluttered again, but I also don't want to deal with having to pay an exorbitant amount for an illegal smog, and an illegal smog is also not the right thing to do. So we're just going to get this thing back into shape. If you look, the last thing I forgot to mention is it does have aftermarket headers. and these aren't the carb legal version. So the carb legal version of these headers on that last runner has a port for the EGR to bolt up to, and that really helps burn off the last of the fuel in the exhaust before it hits the tailpipe. Now, one more thing I forgot, I was holding this the whole time through that rant, and this goes in here. So these were filled with flathead brass bungs way back in the day, and there's gonna be 1, 2 in there. I don't know if you can see it. So 1, 2, another 1, 2, and then one way in the back, that flathead bolt way back there. That is going to be an absolute nightmare to get out if it doesn't come out with these with the socket I just ordered. So I ordered a socket that's flathead, that's as long as that plug, which is 3/8, and I'm hoping that supplies enough torque to get it out. If not, these 5 are going to be okay because I could drill them out. I'm definitely taking the manifold off. I could drill them out and extract it, but there's just no room back there. So I'm really questioning what we're going to do with that. I think we'll just deal with it when we get to that point. And this is going to be that whole EGR assembly. I taped it up because it was just super rusty. I'm still working on that actually. And I need to paint that, and I'll probably paint that with some rust reformer as well. But yeah, so this thing needs to go back on. And what we have here is what they call the California specific thermal reactor manifold. So this thing works off of some extreme heat, and then you've got this flapper right here that rises heat under the intake manifold. The only thing about this deal is they get really hot. They're made out of cast. This is super rare because it's a California spec, and they are known to crack all the time. So I don't know if I'm going to put this on. I might just put it back on and go completely stock, or I'll look for the version of the headers that are on it now that are carb legal, and I'll make that work. Because this, it's not an issue, or it's not a question of if it will crack, it's a question of when. And the way you weld and repair cast is very hard. So this is just going to be a headache for me in the future. I don't know if I want to do it. And the last thing that's really keeping me away from doing it is this flange is modified on the pipe on the Land Cruiser to accept the aftermarket headers. So I would have to remodify the exhaust to accept the stock header again. So if I could find a set of those carb legal headers, I can just bolt it on, remove and replace. And it's got this EGR port on the last runner, and there's this little modified pipe that you'll need, and that'll work. So that's my plan, is to try to find one of those. Worst case, I'll use this guy, but I really don't want to, especially because it looks terrible. It'll take a lot of work to detail it out. So that is my rant. You've seen the parts, you heard the plan, and now you know why I'm going to do what I'm doing. Now, one last thing I didn't mention was, if I cannot get that last plug out easily, the head has to come off. It's going to suck because I've already changed the head gasket when I first worked on this Land Cruiser before I purchased it. So I've already, made peace with the fact that it's in a weird spot. There's no room. If the head has to come off, it has to come off. At the end of the day, it's just time. It's not a lot of money on gaskets. The head gasket's not too much. I've got to change the header gasket anyways, and that's paired with the intake manifold gasket because they're one. So that's got to get changed anyways. So it's really just going to be probably a bunch of coolant that I need to save because I literally just put it in the last video. But I think that'll be the only problem. And doing a few warm-ups and making sure I adjust the valves when they're hot. But I don't want to get that far. Right now, we're just going to take the air cleaner off, maybe the intake manifold and the headers, make some room to try to get more comfortable and figure out if these brass plugs are going to fight us or not. If they don't fight us, this will be a very easy replacement, or at least not a replacement, but a job to get the smog equipment back on. If they do fight us, it's going to be hell. So let's start right now and see how it works out. We're gonna do this together. We have the carburetor removed, the base plate on that, a few miscellaneous brackets out of the way, and I just wanted to dive into here and show you that we did have an exhaust leak. I heard that. I didn't know where it was coming from, but it makes sense because these gaskets are known to go out relatively quickly. I realized that after I had done all this work, so we'll definitely be getting a good quality OEM gasket so we could prevent that from happening again. You can see the soot from here. All right, and we're going to be taking off the intake manifold, and we'll be taking off the header. And man, just the more I look at that plug in the back, the more I feel like this head has to come off. I really don't want to take this head off, but I just have this gut feeling it's got to come off. So we'll keep diving further into this and see what happens. Okay, we're gonna end the video today on getting the intake manifold, carburetor, and headers removed. Right here we can see that it was actually leaking on both sides, so the side closest to the head and also the side on the intake manifold. So it was leaking on both sides. This one was about to start leaking, if not probably already leaking on the bottom. Head side was good. Head side was good on the ends. But yeah, I just recently learned that these are pretty much garbage, and now we can figure out what we're gonna do. I've got that socket coming in for the plugs. Guys, I committed a YouTube sin. I did not record one of the most crucial moments of this re-smogging adventure that I'm going on. And man, I was too excited when the tool came in, and I had to do it, and it literally kept me up at night. Like I said earlier, I was thinking about ending the video on that note, but we're gonna keep moving forward, and I'm gonna show you what happened. So I was originally using this screwdriver, and it kind of fit that for the most part, but not all the way, and it was kind of just messing up the brass head. I had ordered this socket on Amazon about a week ago. It's a very unique, odd socket. It's a 3/8 drive, and it's 3/8 wide. And so that fit way more, and it went down, recessed way more into the flathead. And I used this impact screwdriver. So when you have it on the socket and you hit it in the back with a hammer, it puts force and twists out. So I was able to get this one out, no problem. And the one that I was really worried about in the back, I was able to free up with the use of two extensions. So two long extensions with the impact at the very end and the hammer. And I was holding it right here and hammering it, and it was at such a weird angle. I really didn't think it was gonna come out, but it unscrewed, and that port is threaded perfectly. I left the plug there just so nothing gets inside of it, but that was the one that was really going to hold me up here. The rest of these I should be able to hammer out with the impact driver bit, but if I don't, I'll have room here to drill and extract, where back there I wouldn't, and that one was the one that was really messing me up. So I'm going to time lapse this. We'll see if we get lucky on any of these. If we don't, I'll have to order an extractor kit, but I've been letting them sit with some Freol penetrating spray, and we're gonna go for it and see what happens. Let's hope the rest of these come out easy. All we can do is cross our fingers. You gotta cross them for me because I am doing the hard work. I may use a heavier hammer, just give it more torque. All right, we got movement. I don't want to be too abusive because we're not trying to crack a cylinder head either. All right, see if we can get some more out. This one's deep. This one's probably deeper than all the other ones. I have to apply twisting torque to get it to come out with that impact hammer. I'm gonna try a heavier hammer on this one. It's deep. All right. This one is not coming out. That is stuck. All right, let's move on to the other ones. And maybe I'll use a little heat on this. Yes. Okay, that one's done. This thing is heavy. Whew. Yep, that one's not coming out. The last video ended with us trying to get all of these brass air injection port plugs out. There were 2 stuck, and I basically drilled it out from small to large, used a Dremel to open it up even more, and then put a tap in and just took out the shell casing, which I'm going to show you right now. So these are going to be all the shavings from the drilling and dremeling. This is what was left before I was able to pick it out. And you can see on the tap, we did put some lube on the tap so that it picked up the bits as it went through. So it was a little crispy going in, but we got it here. So we'll call this our second victory. Now, the only reason I didn't record the first one, which was this one that does not have a plug right here, was because I didn't know my method of attack, and I kind of wanted to just do it off camera so that we could make sure when I filmed this one, we were all ready to go. So this is cleaned up. I just need to get all these shavings out of here, vacuum the cylinder bore, but I did put the rag to prevent shavings from going in even further. And the last saving grace is that these are exhaust ports, so it's going to shoot out. It's not going to suck in. So whatever debris we have right there should come out the exhaust, no problem. All we have to do now is a little bit of touch up on the motor just so it looks clean. I did buy a replacement rag joint. This one's looking worn. And last but not least, we have to refinish the brackets for the top, and we'll do the bottom one while we're at it, and we can get the air pump back on. And then these ports are ready for the air injection rail to go back on, along with the rest of the smog bits, which, as you've seen in the last video, is a ton. So right here, we've got some smog pump taken apart. I'll show you that in a little bit. and then all these goodies that we still need to find a home for on the Land Cruiser. So as I stated before, this is the California thermal reactor manifold. It is specific to California, different than the federal spec, and it's actually pretty rare. So I'm happy that we have it. It was removed from the Land Cruiser when the Land Cruiser was new and just put in a crate with all the other parts. So I kind of explained all that in the last video. But it's got a lot of surface rust and it doesn't look good. I've done a lot of work in the engine bay and I don't want to put this back in and have it looking cruddy. So we're going to clean that up with some of this crud cutter. I've had good luck with it in the past on some other parts for the Land Cruiser. And basically on the directions, it's saying to remove all the grease, rinse the metal to break the surface tension, and then apply the remover with brush spray or dipping. So we're probably just going to put this on the table, spray it down a little bit, and then I think I'm gonna apply it with a brush, but I do have a spray bottle. There's a lot of little nooks and crannies, so I don't know which one's gonna work. We might do both. All right, while we wait for the crud cutter to do its job on the exhaust manifold, we will focus our attentions onto the intake manifold. So as you can see, it is crusty and dirty looking. So we're just gonna hit it with the wire brush, get it cleaned up, make sure the mating surfaces are nice and clean, and then we'll start getting some of the smog bits put back on here. We've got a sensor that goes here, a heat sensor here for the carb cooling fan, and I guess we can wait for the rest of the parts once this is back on the Land Cruiser. But for now, we're just gonna clean it up. Well, this is it for the most part. There's some little nooks and crannies I need to clean up, but generally this is where I'm gonna leave it at. I don't have a vapor blaster or soda blast or anything like that to get it super clean, but there is a carb little base plate that bolts from here to here. So 90% of this won't be seen anyways, but it looks 10 times better than it did before. And we have the exhaust manifold with its second coat of crud cutter. The first coat didn't do as good as I wanted, so we put one more coat and we're gonna wait another 30 minutes. Here's the finished product after lots and lots of work. So basically I put multiple coats of the crud cutter. Once the crud cutter dries, it turns into like a white, and that tells you that the rust has been neutralized. But it took many coats and wire wheeling to finally get to this point where when you put it on, it doesn't crust over white. That means everything is neutralized and it actually is a paintable surface. So from here, we're going to put it onto the table over there and we'll get it covered with the Eastwood paint, which I'm going to show you right now. So this is 2 coats down. Pro tip, don't let it run because you can see it when it dries. So you definitely want to keep the brush moving. Don't let it run. And you know, it's really liquidy. So if you lay it down here and it starts running back down, that's where you have to keep an eye on it. So all in all, not too bad. That's going to be in the back on the bottom, so you won't see it. These edges will be all cleaned up before I put it together. And this is pretty much done. Just needs to cure for 24 hours at least. And then I can start getting some of the engine assembled. Other than that, I think this is pretty much it. But man, what a transformation from how it started. So after all of this hard work getting everything detailed and crossing all my T's, dotting all my I's, we are ready to stage everything and get it mounted up on the Land Cruiser and then cross our fingers that the test fire goes smoothly. We have all the parts staged to get this beautiful FJ40 California carb legal. At least, fingers crossed, it's going to pass smog after we put all this stuff back on. So the way I set it up was basically just stuff that we're going to put on after the main bits. I wanted this on its own table because this manifold is super heavy. But we need to join these two. There's going to be a gasket. And then we obviously need to make sure that these 2 holes line up. As long as the gasket crushes properly, we'll be good to go. We've got the EGR, hose clamps, miscellaneous bolts, air pump hoses, bracket for the manifold, bracket for the air pump. All the BSV, VSV, whatever. And then we got the air pump itself, the heat riser block off plate, the air rail, and the injection ports. And then we've got the Remflex gaskets. So we are doing Remflex on the heat riser, the EGR, and the intake manifold. So if you can see here, it says fragile. They are not joking. This is it's almost soft. It kind of bends when you lift it up. And here's the original one for reference. These blow out really easy. You can see this one was already leaking exhaust from just a short, maybe 150 miles that I had it on the Land Cruiser. But I wanted to show you the thickness here. So look at the thickness, the size of that gasket compared to the Remflex. The Remflex, you only need a torque to 15 to 20 foot-pound, and it's basically going to crush and absorb and mold around any imperfections on the cylinder head and on the manifold. Now what makes this even harder is that these manifolds share a bolt, so they need to be, really flat and machined well with each other. These are both original to this Land Cruiser, so that's I checked it with the level. It's really dialed in compared to the headers that I took off. But yeah, so these were recommended by some guys online, and I really dig it because you can see here that there is a little bit of pitting, like just right here in between, and the Remflex box states that it gets into all those nooks and crannies, so you don't need any sealant on that. Let's see what this says right here. So, guarantee to stop exhaust leaks, 50% crush seals, solid graphite gaskets for 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, no retorquing required. So, I'm really, really hyped on that. Made in USA, which is even better. So, what I'm gonna do now is sort through these bolts, find what I need to get this buttoned up. We'll get this bracket installed here. This is like a support bracket almost. And I think I'm gonna put the EGR on as well. So this tube is gonna go here, and this bracket gets bolted right there. These 2 guys go right here. We've got a little air sensor. We'll probably put this on after it's in, but this goes here, and all these other parts are gonna kind of fall into place. But first and foremost, we're gonna get this knocked out. looks like total chaos, madness, but it is organized madness. We know what's going on here. First and foremost, we got the smog pump on with the bracket that goes off the water pump. We've got the thermal reactor exhaust manifold, cleaned up stock intake manifold, the heat riser shield, EGR, and all of the bolts that hold it together down there. The heat insulator for the carb. This little vacuum sensor was originally just plugged with a bolt, so we got the sensor in and the carbs locked in. So all I'm waiting for right now is actually I had purchased 2 of these lines from a member on I Hate Mud. So there's one line that's the feed, and then this one that's capped is the return, which goes all the way back down to the charcoal canister. And you can see the hose right here that's been plugged up. So we're gonna get those 2 lines in a couple of days. I've got this belt coming tomorrow, and then we're gonna try to clean this up so it doesn't look so crusty and old before we get everything buttoned up. But for now, we're kind of stuck here until those other parts come in. Then we can get the air cleaner on and kind of finish up the rest of the stuff. We do also have to jump in here, and believe it or not, there was a full throttle switch. So I'll grab that right now and we'll jump in and see how to mount it up. Okay, so this is the full throttle switch, throttle position switch, one of the 2. Basically, when you give it full throttle, this pad right here touches the switch, and it does something with the little computer that's under the hood. And I believe it cuts off the EGR. So something here gets activated via these wires, and it does whatever it does to the motor. I'm not sure, but I know it's going back on, so let's get it bolted up. Okay, it was way too tight to record anything, but we've got it bolted up. There's just 2 10mm on the firewall, and plugs in right here, and you can actually hear it when it engages full throttle. So I may have to adjust that, but for now, we'll just leave it as is. So when I put these on, these little vacuum covers, I put a little dab of grease so they don't get stuck. And it's going to pay off tenfold right now. Otherwise, we'd be battling these things. And we're making way for this guy that was removed. So it's got 2 bolts here and here, and we'll find a home for all these vacuums wherever they go. So it seemed like a lot of work at first, but it's all coming together. Everything falls into place. There's just a few things that I need to figure out where they go, but other than that, all the vacuum lines are original and they're numbered, so those shouldn't be too hard. And bonus, this actually has the mount for these wires that was missing, so now they have a home, and we don't have them hanging around looking kind of ugly down here. And they go to these guys right there. Boom. See, so everything falls into place. We just gotta put the pieces of the puzzle together. So right here, we're just jumping to getting the rest of the engine bay put back together. We already got the smog pump belt on and installed the fuel feed and return lines. So now we're just getting the air intake on, plugging up the rest of the vacuum lines, and test firing it for the first time with all of the smog equipment. It's super loud, but I have no choice. I've got to meet this appointment at the fabricator shop to get this exhaust patched up. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we do get pulled over. We made it to the fab shop, and here you can see the gap we need to bridge. These are the parts that I bought in preparation for the job, and I had him chop, cut, and weld. This is what we came up with before doing the final burn, which you can see here. The flange on the header is normal steel and everything else is stainless, but that's the only way we could buy these flanges. So we just got home from the fab shop, got the exhaust patched up from the header to the original exhaust system that was chopped and modified for the aftermarket headers. But now it sounds a whole lot better. I still need to do a little bit of fine tuning, a little bit of ignition timing, and making sure that there's no vacuum leaks anywhere. Either way, we're gonna end the video with the Land Cruiser running perfectly with all of the smog equipment back on. So let's check it out. Alright guys, we have everything buttoned up and ready to go. So we are half a mile away from the smog shop. We're gonna see if he can get us fit in and see if we pass. Later, Phil. All right, guys, we passed California smog emissions testing and the evap test with flying colors. All of that hard work paid off, and now we get to enjoy the Land Cruiser. So tomorrow I will be taking my smog test certification showing passed, and we'll get some tags to put on these license plates. And that'll be the first time we get a new set of tags on this since 1997. Anyways, I'm stoked about it, and I can't wait to get some seat time without having to worry about getting pulled over. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. This was a fun project to work on, and check out this photo of my father-in-law in 1997, and check out this photo of him after we got it running and back on the road in 2024. So this is me taking the same pose with the Land Cruiser, and we started having fun with it. This was our baby announcement and the photos we used on the cards we mailed out. And that was in Lido Creek. Here you can also see we put on a new bumper with the winch, and this was on the same trip as well. So we've been having a blast with this thing. We even took it to go pick up our new 2025 Land Cruiser. It took us about 3 to 4 months to find the Land Cruiser we wanted, but it pairs perfectly with the 78. So one of the first shows we took it to was Toyota Fest, and we won an award for Workmanship in the Land Cruiser category, they don't do first, second, third, but they do 3 awards for workmanship. And we won first place in the van SUV at JCCS the following year. And here's a photo with my father-in-law and the next generation to own the FJ40. And we're gonna close out this video with vintage photos from 1983 up to 1997 of the FJ40 when my father-in-law owned it. And they were out having a blast with this thing up in Big Bear, down in Newport. This was a family heirloom that will stay in the family. It's going to the next generation for many, many years to come. So stay tuned. We will have some future videos of this project, but this is the majority of the restoration that it took to get back onto the road.